The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Supernatural, metaphysical, paranormal. You know, all those things you've been wondering about? Are you ready to go deeper into the realms of the unknown? I hope you've got your walking shoes on, because life is an adventure, and this is the journey. Come on, let's go. Hello and welcome to the show, everyone. This is the Journey Radio Show, and hey, we're the She-Squatchers. I'm Jen Cruz, your host, and I've got my trusty teammates with me on the line. I've got Jenna Grover.
Hey there.
And Tammy Tricle.
Hi, everybody.
We have a super awesome guest tonight. We've got Ron Morehead, who's recorded the Sierra sounds. And if you don't know those, get ready, because to be awed and wonderfied, I'm telling you right now. Welcome to the show, Ron. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you guys. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, I was actually scared to invite you for a long time. I was like, he's not going to want to do my show.
I love it.
Yes, I'm so excited. And I just before the show, you were saying that you were going to be at a conference in Washington coming up.
Yeah, that's in June, I think. Madeline Falls, I'll be there. And you guys will too, I guess, I hear.
I'm excited. I'm excited. We'll get to hang out.
And I'm going to be a couple other places prior to that, but another place in September. Well, every month I generally got something going on. So.
That's awesome.
And then that's in between, which is fun. I love to do these. I stay right here at my home and do these. I don't have to travel. I love to be places. I just like to go places.
I totally understand. When are they going to get the teleportation device invented for us?
It's already invented. You just have to wait. Yeah, you can't get too much information too quickly or it throws us for a loop.
I'm ready. I'm ready for it. I've been ready since 10th grade in high school when my science teacher told me that 3M was working on it and they were able to transport an apple. That was a really long time ago.
Oh, well, you've watched Star Trek, I'm sure.
So, Ron, can you tell our listeners a little bit of your background so they get an idea of who you are if they've never heard of you, which I can't even imagine. But
people haven't heard of me, I'm sure, but it's responsible for producing the Sierra sounds on CDs, and basically it was a group of hunters. I was involved with them in the Sierra Nevada mountains in the 70s, early 70s. And in fact, it started for me in 1971. I was 29 then, and these things were coming around this remote camp, 8 miles in the wilderness, very high elevation camp in the Sierra Nevada mountains, and they were messing with us at night and coming around making their sounds. And anyway, we go back. We took a tape recorder and started going back, and it wasn't until winter of 71, when we contacted Ivan Sanderson, cryptozoologist who's passed away, but he was well known then, and he thought it was a hoax, but he read the 23-page letter that Warren Johnson had sent him, and he sent it to a guy named Peter Byrne, which is in Oregon. And by the way, Peter still is in Oregon, good friend of mine now. But Peter thought the thing was a hoax too, and nobody has repeated encounters and has this kind of stuff happen. We didn't know that. We were not looking for Bigfoot. It's a hunting camp. We were hunters. And anyway, that's how it got started. We took Alan Berry up there because Peter Byrne contacted Alan Berry, who was an investigative reporter. He come down, and unbeknownst to us, he was looking for who could be pulling whose leg here anyway. It's just not right. But we took him up there in 72, and he started encountering the same thing and started looking around who was pulling this way up there in the middle of nowhere. No one's around and no signs. The only thing they'd leave is big footprints and big voices that we were able to record, and he recorded them. So he fostered the studies at the University of Wyoming to show that these were credible, that they had not been speeded up or slowed down. There was no 60-cycle hum in them. And actually, I.E. Tybel in New York, who studied the Watergate tapes, determined that. And he said there's no 60-cycle hum, which would have showed a pre-recording or re-recording, and none of that. So they were authentic tapes, which we knew, but then you had to have some professor behind it to say that sort of stuff, you know. And so that's where it began. We thought that was a big hump. He gave this report and wrote a paper on it. Professor Curlin did, University of Wyoming, presented it to the Anthropology of the Unknown in Vancouver, BC in 1978, I think it was. And then nothing happened after that. I mean, academia still couldn't get their grip around their paradigm. Most people got their minds made up what they think these things are. So if they don't fit into that, they're going to say, no, we're going to keep looking until we find what we think they are. And that's what happens. And but it wasn't until Scott Nelson, actually, who was a cryptolinguist, a two-time graduate of the Cryptolinguistic School of Foreign Languages in Monterey, California, very, very well vetted. He heard them by accident through the BFRO.org site. And he came all the way out from Missouri, where he was teaching foreign languages at the time. And he interviewed me in Albury to get the context. And he said, I think I hear a language in this, but I got to study them. So we gave him I gave him a copy of it all to go study. And he did. He came back after a while and said, it is a language by the human definition of language. And that really means a lot. I mean, if you know what that means. Because then later on, I find out Dr. Brown University, Dr. Lieberman, Brown University says only humans have the vocal mechanism to create language like I'm talking now, which means the hyoid bone here connected through the nervous system of the tongue and into the brain, so I can say what I'm seeing and talk to you. You know, dolphins can't do that. Whales don't do that. They all communicate. Everything communicates. But having the human definition of language like these have takes it to a whole nother level for me, because that tells me that possibly they have a human component to them. They must have. And so that also I was with Dr. Meldrum here a few weeks ago in Washington, and we spoke at Kelso, and he read a paper, got some information about this doctor that wrote an article on a paper on Ketchum's report. You know, Melba Ketchum, who did the DNA. He took a whole different perspective of it. They're not foo-fooing it like they were. They're just foo-fooing her interpretation of it. And so she says, well, you guys know Dr. Meldrum, don't you? Melba Ketchum?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, she says, well, they're a hybrid. They come from the Nephilim, and she got into the spiritual, which that gave her the thumbs down for academia, because you can't get off on those ideas. You know, you got to stay with what it is. So this guy stayed with what he thought it could be, which was a relic hominid, which is so close, the DNA is so close to human that the DNA that was done was confused. It actually is what it says it is. It's part human. And it's not contaminated like so many people want to say they are. So they've got two choices here. You can either choose that or you can choose Melba's. So where you want to go with that? Are they some type of a being that's got an alien component to them, or just a relic hominid that has evolved up through the ages and evolved a little further than we have, in my opinion, just because they can do some things that I've witnessed that just uncanny and things that we don't know how to do. I think I know how they do them, but I'm not evolved that far enough yet, you know.
Oh,
I just haven't discovered it yet.
I want to hear about those things that you've witnessed.
Well, we witnessed some strange things up there. It wasn't just the sounds, which we were recording. It was lights and sounds that we could not put a finger on. I mean, it's like I mentioned this in my book, Voices in Wilderness. You know, the tuning fork sound that you think it sounds like a big tuning fork going off in this daytime. You can't find the source of it. Just some big wooing sound up above your head. And I've seen a UFO up there come down, a big blue ball come down, controlled, and just a lot of mysteries like that. One time we were in the shelter, and we heard what we thought the camp was being torn apart, which we thought, well, these things have never done that before, because they've been dealing with them now for a while. And we thought everything we hauled in on the mules was being tossed all over the place. We go out there and nothing's changed. How do you explain that?
That is crazy.
Nothing's changed. Several things like that happened up there. One time, I mentioned this in David Pilates' 411, The Missing the Hunters, that I was involved in. I thought I heard a car door slam outside this camp. There's nothing going in there. You only get in it by walking or on a horseback or something. You can't drive anything in there, no motorcycles, nothing like that. And it's 8 miles into the wilderness, a very remote, imposing trail, by the way. I've had a few bumps on that trail myself, and over the years, a few broken ribs and this, that, and the other. It gets a little rough. But anyway, it was an adventure, and it still is. Last time something happened up there, well, in 2018, when Paulides did the filming up there with me, him and his videographer. And but 2 years prior to that, I was up there. Carrie, my partner, and I were up there, and we're in a tent. The camp shelter has been taken apart now because it was falling in anyway. But this light, a bolt of light, the bolt sounds like it's going fast, but it was just floating by us. And now here it is, just getting dark, and I refer to it like a lifesaver or a lightsaber in Star Wars. That's what it looked like. It's just floating through the trees.
What color was it?
It was white.
Right.
What do you do with that? I mean, I don't know what it's going to do. I got a little pea shooter with me to scare the bear off with a birdshot in it. That's all I got, 38. But it's not going to take. I don't go up there with a gun to shoot these things anyway. It's basically, if a bear's wanting the food more than you are, you got to be ready for it. And so I usually carry sometimes, or a snake. We got rattlesnakes too. I got a hat band made out of a 52-inch rattlesnake that we got on the trail up there once. Yeah, it can be exciting, to say the least. And all this stuff was going on, so it took me on an adventure for all these years, 50 years now, and it's still going on. I've been into South America a couple times, been in Nepal, I've been to Siberia, all over. But my most eye-opener was in South America, I think, when I was witnessing the elongated skulls with Brian Forrester, and had some scientists with us down there to weigh them and check them out, and to try to work on getting the DNA out of those things. So anyway, this is what I've done. This kind of took over my life, even though I got a lot of different things I do, but I do this too. And this is the main thing I do now, because I'm at the age now where I want to say what I want to say, and that's all there is to it.
As it should be.
So go ahead and ask me something. I mean, I shoot off the mouth. I'll just keep rolling if you don't say something.
Absolutely.
We love that. We love it.
Well, actually, the Bigfoot thing has turned in for me a little more than just the Bigfoot story. You say Bigfoot, but what are they really? And how many types are there? Because I think there's more than one type, because now that the government says we can acknowledge aliens and acknowledge that UFOs are around, and they are, and anyone who doesn't know that or think that got their head in the sand, I think. They've been around for eons. They've been here for eons and eons. They've dealt with and manipulated the DNA of different species on this planet. I think a primate is one of them, and maybe even us, If we are beings from the light, if the light beings created us, which God is light, supposedly, and God is plural, like I mentioned earlier. So if that's what happened with us a few thousand years ago, well, that's who we are. But we've kind of swayed away from that. But again, I know this is about Bigfoot and the mysteries behind Bigfoot, and there is a lot of them. But what brings those on, I think, is possible alien intervention into a primate, and that was probably before us even. And I'm sure you guys know about Gilgamesh and that story too, and Inky, is that his name?
And Lil and Inky, yes.
Yeah, but things were here a long time before our ancestors.
Yes, I believe that too.
And I think the troglodytes have been messed with.
The what did?
The troglodytes have been messed with. The caveman has been manipulated. They don't know whether the Denisovans, they still don't know the male counterpart to that, That's the nuclear DNA. And Melba Ketchum, when she did her DNA analysis a few years back, she could not find the nuclear DNA, which is the basic, will tell you the male counterpart. The maternal DNA, the mitochondrial DNA is carried through the female side. And that's what most of DNA is handled because that's easier to find. But the nuclear DNA is a little more complex, very expensive to work out. But she did all that. And there's where the two different stories I was telling you about. You can either go the relic hominid, where it's so close to human that people thought it was contaminated by human, or you can go with the alien intervention like Melba Ketchum did. So I go with alien intervention just because what we had up there at our camp was different. Now, we call them Bigfoot because they had big feet, and they were huge, whatever they were. I only got a glimpse of one once. My daughter saw them 3 times. The other guys got little glimpses occasionally. Al Berry never got any kind of... Of course, he wasn't there doing his investigation all the time. Like I was up there every chance I got, and just experienced quite a bit of stuff.
Were you going up there alone?
I did.
Why?
Because I was afraid to. I wanted to face my fears. That's a little bit silly, but I did it. I used to be afraid of spiders, and I'm not afraid of nothing now. You got to control fear because that's your only enemy you got.
I've tried to control spider fear. I just can't. I scream bloody murder.
I don't like them. I don't like them, and I'll stomp them. But who knows? There may be a whole world out there full of spiders that you'll be in charge of someday. I don't.
I took an entomology class to get over a fear of all the creepy crawlies.
But that gets into the dog man and different things like that. I think aliens are messing with us here. They experiment, and I think a lot of them are here now, probably under the water, or they create their own environment wherever they are. They can cloak. They can get out of your perception. We only see within light's frequency. Everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. And there may have been a lot of more big feet up there than what we ever thought of because we didn't see them because they're out of our light's frequency. And that's all we can see. It's between 440 terahertz and 770 terahertz. That's all we see. There's all these other frequencies out there. Animals see some of those frequencies. Your camera's lens will sometimes see those frequencies that you don't see. There's more going on than what meets our eye. There's more going on than what meets our 3-dimensional environment too. According to quantum physics, there's at least 11 dimensions. I think there's a lot more than that, but that's just my opinion. But mathematically, there's been 11 established. You get out of our 3, what do you got? You got frequency beings. These aliens can be a different frequency. We won't see them. So, is there mind speak can go on? Yeah. Or do we have telepathic abilities? Yeah. What kind of abilities do we have? We have a lot of abilities. These things have a lot of abilities. Do they mind speak? I don't know. People ask me, did they ever mind speak to you? I don't know. They spoke to me orally, though. I heard them and taped them. So I don't know what they were asking me or what they were saying, but maybe I will know someday. I will know someday. Yeah.
That would be incredible to learn the language. I mean, to find out how they communicate like that.
They're so rapid. Their chatter is so rapid. Scott Nelson, the cryptolinguist, he had to slow it down just to transcribe the language, the fact that there is a language. Now, he didn't translate it, he transcribed it. That's what he's trained to do for the military, to find deception in languages, to see if it is a language and stuff like that. Very qualified person. He's not just a regular linguist, it's an art form. Only a few guys have that ability, because they filter him out in the military and used him. Because he has, so he's got thousands of hours, he calls them under the can, where you just listen to the foreign languages or different languages. And anyway, a 2-time graduate of that school, when we vetted him, they said he's more than qualified to do what he says he did. Yeah. And that's a big deal. But see, you get academia just don't want to capture that. They have to stay within their disciplines, and they've got a discipline of parameters that they have to stay within. It can't get into the woo. People call me a woo-wooer now, which I think is a compliment, because I've got to tell you, if you go to church on Sunday, if you believe in God, believe in spirituality, you're a woo-wooer. So there you are.
There you are.
And classical science, which is Newtonian physics, 1687, that's what we're all taught in school, grammar school. That's what we live by in our 3-dimensional environment. But you get into the other dimensions, and you get into quantum physics, and you get into modern science, it's called. Max Planck got the Nobel Prize for quantum mechanics in 1918, just over 100 years ago. So it's a fairly new science that people are just trying to get their heads around. but they're more and more happening. It's not hard to understand once you get into it. I mean, you just realize you got to conceive it because you'll never see it with our three-dimensional eyes and with our parameters that we have with our humanistic, whatever we are. Anyway, there I go again. I just rattle on and on. First thing you know, time will be up. I'm careful here.
I know you wrote a book called Quantum Bigfoot.
I did.
Can you give us like just an example of how Bigfoot is quantum?
Well, I think I just started it a minute ago.
You did.
Well, I think
Quantum 101.
if they have the ability within their vocal, by the way, their vocal mechanism is so much superior to ours, and that's been established. It's just way outside of our normal range. They go way above, they go in our range, they go way below. And if they have that type of vocal mechanism that can actually create the frequency or get into a frequency that could change their energy, their matter into energy. Think about that a minute. Can matter change to energy? It does. When you die, you don't die. You just change forms, according to Einstein. According to Stephen Hawking, you just change forms. Nothing dies. So where you go? What happens? Well, if they can change their form from matter to energy via vibrational frequency, you wouldn't see them anymore. You see them cloaking. And then what would happen? Their trackways would stop, wouldn't they? You wouldn't follow them anymore, would you?
If something raised its frequency high enough, wouldn't it become non-physical?
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, frequency isn't physical anyway, is it?
This is all like right up my alley. I'm so excited. Keep going.
Well, it seems to be resonating with a lot of people, and I love it because I think I'm on the right track. In fact, I'm just starting another book right now to get things going. This is the first time I've mentioned it, but it's going to answer some more questions, I think. But it gets into what these things could be and how they do it, what they do. How the trackways disappear, their density changes, like I just mentioned. I've had that happen to me up there. And for a long time, I was like all the other researchers out there just throwing these people out with the baby water when they said their trackways stopped, But when it happens to you, and my daughter saw it that morning, and we found the trackway, and I mean, those tracks were 2 inches deep, and I got a picture of this in my book, but Nelson was trying to, he couldn't even make a dent in the ground. Just whatever it weighed was really dense. And all of a sudden it just stopped. I looked in the trees. Could have jumped to a boulder, what happened? Just stopped. And I had to figure that out. I think it's the density. It has to be. What else could it stop? There's no weight then. And that's done through frequency vibrational from matter to energy, and then somehow they can change back from energy into matter. And that's what we started out. Before you came into your mother's womb, you were energy somewhere. Energy doesn't. Oh, you got to get into that stuff. It's so fun.
I'm a Reiki master teacher, so I'm all about energy all the time. So energy is a very physical feeling thing to me, like vibrations
so good.
Tune into vibrations of Bigfoot and look for that. See if you can sense it when you're driving by.
Mm-hmm.
We've done that actually.
Yeah, that's how you heal people. That's how you can do it. You can find the vibrational frequency of anything. You can change the matter to it. How you like that one?
That's good. I like it.
Now, do we know how to find the vibrational frequency of something? We don't know how. Our masters do. We do know how somewhere in here. We just haven't learned how. We got so much more than what we display. We just haven't evolved into it yet. I think these things have been here longer than we have, and I think they have evolved into some of these attributes that we were originally created with. And I think they play with you. They're not out there maliciously doing things, even though there's a lot of reports like that. I was up in Alaska with this a Travel Channel this last summer, and on that was it called Alaska Killer Bigfoot, and they were 70 years ago, this whole village just evacuated, just left because these people were getting killed by, they say, a monster, a Bigfoot. They found dismembered parts, and finally they just got scared off. They just left the village. So what they were doing was trying to see if they could come back to the village. So they took me up there to give them advice and I did that on the filming. It was an 8-part series on the Discovery Plus channel. So was it mean? Yeah, if it tears your arm off and tears you apart and kills you, it's mean. But what caused that? I told them what I thought. Because when I flew over in a helicopter, I realized how much logging they did and how much misuse of the property they were doing. They were overfishing it, they were overlogging it, they were mining it. In my opinion, they were abusing the place. And I'm sure if they saw a 10, 12, 15 foot tall, and some they were claiming they're 15 foot tall up there. I've heard that other reports in Alaska too. They're huge up there. If they were shooting at it, and I got to believe they would probably shoot at something like that, that would piss it off.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't like it if somebody shot at me. I'd tell them not to. It's my own way.
Yeah.
But anyway, if that was all going on up there, I said just respect where you're at here, respect the property, respect it all. And I said if you respect that, they'll respect you back. And that was my advice. I don't think they showed that on the series, but that was my advice.
So did they continue having problems?
You want to hear about the quantum aspects of Bigfoot?
Oh.
Well, some could be some could be bad, but again, it depends on what created them, what entity out there, what alien. Let's get right down to it. This is all through all kinds of ancient texts. It's not just our biblical history, but go all the way back in the Sumerian tablets and all that stuff. You find out these stories exist all through there about these light beings or these beings from the sky people come down, and they're called them gods. And a lot of them were referred to as demigods when they bred in with the human race, or when they bred in with the troglodyte or whatever they was doing. But they've experimented. I think I was going to say this before, but I think they do that possibly to acclimate their species to this environment.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I would have said it.
You know, I love your humor. I really do.
Well, you got to be happy, because actually that changes your health. Your health will get better if you can keep your vibrational frequency high. And you do that through humor. You do it through positiveness. You do it through love and compassion. You don't do it through hate and war and killing and fighting. That's just lowers everything. You're never going to get ahead. No one is until you learn what that's all about and learn how to treat people with compassion and whatever situation you're in, be happy about it. Be okay with it, because somewhere along the line you've asked for it and you needed it. Your karma requires it, and you wanted to face it so you can raise your frequency. It isn't the experience that you have, it's how you respond to the experience that's important. That's my opinion.
I agree 100%. It's all about how we react. I mean, I just agree.
And it's so easy to get mad at somebody. Some little old lady in front of you when the light turns green and she's on double medication, she just won't move, You just want to say something.
I would say it's mirrors all around. Mirrors all around. You just need
compassion. I'm saying it's just what you got to have to raise your frequency and stay healthy, because it will keep you healthy.
I call it mirrors all around. Everybody is showing you a reflection of yourself from past, present, or future, and it's a divine act of forgiveness, of forgiving yourself by forgiving them.
Very good. Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
It's helped me to forgive a lot of people that I didn't think I could.
Some of those mysteries I talked to you about earlier was part of the quantum aspect, I think, of these things. Because how do you do that stuff? One time we thought a herd of horses was tromping down the little ridge there at us, but there was no horses doing that. Our horses, what we had, were tied up right there. And you hear those things, but they toy with you. These things were toying with us to see what we do, I think. Anyway, that's
with that, I think we're going to take our commercial break and come right back with Ron Morehead. Stay tuned, everybody. Awesome. You're doing great. We're already halfway done. It goes so fast.
It does.
It goes very fast. I was on 4 hours one time on the coast to coast. That's just way too much. I won't do that again.
I bet that was exhausting.
Oh, and they do it live. You got to do it in the middle of the night. You know. This is hard enough, 10 o'clock for me.
Yeah.
I agree,
Which
because
one
it's 10:30 here too.
When I was in the West Coast, you know, it was
Easier.
different.
Yeah, I bet it was. Sarge, can you hear me? I'm wondering if you could play the audio files when we come back from break. I don't know if he could hear me or not, so I just typed it to him.
I forgot which 3 I sent you. I see where I sent you 3.
You did send me 3, but then I asked you if we could send the Samurai Chatter too, and you did, because that's Jenna's.
Well, it's what
that's
you
our
play
favorite.
first. These kind of go in chronological order. If you play the aggressive ones first, it'd be better because that's the kind of sounds we were getting to start with, and then they finally got friendly with us.
Gotcha. I don't know which order he loaded them in, but hopefully he did.
I don't know how many times I've listened to this, and I love it every time.
She does. She's tried to mimic it, but it's not even close. Sorry, Jenna.
Hey, you know what? I admit it. I thought I could mimic, but there's no possible way.
Joe Rogan thought he could mimic it too. He still says that. The guys, it can't be done according to different studies we've had on him. You can't reach the frequencies. Human voice can't do it. And I challenged him, but he won't respond to me. He's too big.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is the Journey Radio Show, and hey, we're the She-Squatchers. Won't you check us out online at She-Squatchers.com? At the top of the page, you're going to find our events clicker. You can just click on it and see where we're going to be. I just have to apologize. We had an update today. Our April event, which was supposed to be in Washington State, has been moved to October, so I'll be updating our website soon for that. It'll be, I think, October 21st and 22nd. Yakima. Yakima Valley Bigfoot Con will be in October instead of April. So check that out. I guess we're going to be at the same event with Ron Morehead and Middleline Files in June. So we're excited about that. And we She-Squatchers will also be in North Carolina in May. So come check us out there. There's some other events we're working on out the details. They haven't been added to our site yet until we've locked them in. So, but there is one for sure happening in September in Texas. So we will add that as soon as we have all the details for you. So we've got Ron Morehead tonight, and I'm hoping that Sarge can play the audio files that he sent for the playing on the show tonight. Sarge, if you could play those, that would be great.
Okay.
Did you hear that movie tell at the end?
They sound like they're arguing.
Well, that's in the human voice range, that movie tell. That was really, because according to Dr. Curlin, that's in the average human range. That little sound right there, but the other ones are outside the human range, most of them. And that's when, that was taped by Alan Berry, actually, who's passed away, and a good friend of mine, turned out to be a good friend of mine. And he's one that fostered the studies at the University of Wyoming, Dr. Curlin. And that was 2 of them talking, they feel like. Anyway, that is conversation, that is language. Very rapid, very chattery. And that's not the first time they've been reports of these things chattering. You get into Albert Ostman, you know who he was, and supposedly got kidnapped in Toba Inlet back in 1924, carried away and captive for 6 days by this family of Bigfoots, a male and female and 2 adolescents. Didn't know what he's there for, but he said they were chattering. That's in John Green's book, The Apes Are Among Us, he said. And John Green interviewed him in the 50s, early 50s, and he wrote about it in the book. So I went there. I went up there and investigated that with my plane. I flew up there with Peter Byrne and Alan, and we flew into Toby Inlet. We had helicopters on standby. We was looking for the bowl that he said he was captured in. But getting back to the language and the sounds, he said they were chattering, and that's what they do. They chatter very rapidly, and they step on each other, and no one can mimic that. I mean, I know people say, oh, I can do that. Well, they think like we, they don't do their homework. They just don't know what we've gone through to have these sounds studied. And it's not like we backed our truck up on some dirt road, opened up a 6-pack of beer and had a party and started recording these things. That's not what it was. You get 8 miles in the wilderness, it's very hard to get there, very imposing. No one can find it unless you know where it's at. Very hard. So anyway, that's the story about that sound, that right there. That's the sound that Curlin actually, he did analysis on that sound right there. And that's in the book, Man Like Monsters on Trial, that was published by UCB Press, Vancouver. And, and he wrote the paper, and the paper's in that book. And it's got the graphs in there showing the little icons of where the voice compared to human. It represented an animal about 8 foot tall, he said, compared to man, the voice signatures.
Wow, that's incredible. Should we play the next one? Go ahead, Sergeant.
That might be it.
Yeah. Were they whistling? They were whistling.
That was them whistling the first time through their vocal. They do this through vocal cords, not through the lips. That was Warren Johnson whistling back from just right outside the shelter door. The thing was behind the shelter. And he was trying to interact with it. That's one of the first interaction. But I wanted to mention the whistle and show you the whistle because they do it. It's very harmonic, and it's not like the kind of whistle we do. And it's really unique, very beautiful whistle, really. I walked up behind our shelter, me and Al Berry and Lewis Johnson, I think it was, we walked up there. One was back behind these big boulders, we thought. And we got up there. By the time we got up there, whatever it was, it moved out into the tree line, and it whistled. Didn't have our recorders, but that was like, it's pretty. This is pretty. But what's it's doing? What's that whistle all about? Well, I got to record it. The whistle starts, but the whistle just morphs into a vocalization. It's like it's part of something there. They whoop too. I got whoops on my second CD where they're whooping back and forth and rock pounding back and forth and different things like that. And they're doing it like a code. And they do that start with. And I think they do that to motion to the other one or to tell the other one something through messaging with whooping, different types of whooping. And I got the different types of whoopings recorded that one night too. That was not a C1, by the way. And if you just don't do anything, just leave them alone. Let act like nothing's going on. Just keep doing what you're doing. They don't think they got your attention. You can go out there shooting at them or shining a flashlight or something. They'll get closer. They'll start messing with you more. And then they start talking to you like they did with me that night.
That's really
cool. I don't know
cool.
what they're saying, but he was asking me something. Or she was. I'm not sure what it was.
When you heard this, were you nervous? Or were you excited? Did you know?
Excited is the word.
Okay.
Yeah, because by then we realized that they weren't looking for the salt and pepper to put on us. They weren't going to eat us, carry us away. I've been dealing with them since '71. The night that I told you about the whooping sounds, which maybe you'll hear. I've forgotten if I sent that to you or not, but that's when I saw one, and we were kind of bold because they started interacting with me and my friend Bill. Just two of us in camp that night. We had packed supplies on our horses and mules, and I thought we was going to let us ride on the shoulders that night. That's how friendly we were getting with them, and that's how bold we were getting, how bold they were getting. And I thought we had something really good going on. And until the next night when Warren and Lewis came in, because it was starting hunting season, and they started doing this again, the rock pounding, the whooping sounds, and Lewis got up and just shined the light and got his gun. He just got frustrated with it, because it's like trying to nail jello to the walls. You can't quite get a finger on it, because there's always outsmarting us. No matter what kind of trap you set up for a camera or whatever you try to do, they go around another way. Because we were thinking they're just some kind of long lost ape out there in the woods, like researchers generally are looking for, but they're more than that. At least what we dealt with was a lot more than that. And they're just not to be underestimated. They got a level of intuitiveness that we have not evolved into yet.
Gotcha. Should we go on to the next sound?
Sure.
Right there, just seen moving right through there.
That was me yelling back at them and trying to figure out what they were saying to me. I wasn't trying to figure it out. I mimicked them, really. I had no idea that they could actually talk at the time. I knew they were talking, but I didn't know the significance of it at the time. And I have people tell me, I know what they're telling you. I know what they're saying, but they'll tell me something different. So I didn't know who to believe. And if they don't know the context of what's going on, they better know that if they're going to try to tell me what they're saying, because you can't just tell me that you know what they're saying. I mean, I don't know. Who knows that? It's up to them. Well, maybe I'll find out someday, this live or the next one.
There you go. I can't wait.
There's a question in the chat room. Sherry wants to know, do you think that the young Bigfoot have higher pitched voices, like a pre-puberty thing?
They have a different voice. We have a small voice we recorded. It's on it's on the CD that comes with the download on my book. And it's a little one. We think it's a little one. So it sounds a definite smaller voice. I don't know I don't know the frequency of it. I don't know if that's even been checked, but you hear the bigger voice, and we think it's the mother coming down on it for maybe getting too bold. That's when the samurai cry behind me, the male, big male. That's the night I saw one go through the trees. And very fast. They're very, very fast. These things just like they float through the trees. Not through the trees, but through the trees. Not through the trees, but through the trees.
I understand.
Well, I don't know. When I got caught on that Alaska Bigfoot thing, saying they live in trees. Well, my whole theory here is if they could change their matter into energy, they can go energize into a tree. And there's a lot of theories about that. I'm not the first to say that, but I think how they do it is through energy, through frequency, and if they do that. And I don't know all of them have the same attributes. In fact, I'm quite sure they don't have the same attributes. Some of them just scream and yell, and some may not have language. But what we dealt with up there, that's all I can talk about, because I've had other experiences elsewhere, but I've never had the type of experience I've had up there in the Sierras at that camp.
I got to tell you, Native Elder, I'm part Native American. Native Elder told me that I could merge my energy with the tree. If I just sat up against it and merged my energy with the tree, I would appear to disappear and become part of the tree, but I'd still just be sitting there. I'd just be hidden.
Yeah, I can go with that one.
Yeah, that just reminded me of that. So I thought I need to tell you that.
Yeah.
Should we go to?
Well, the native lore. What I've got in my PowerPoint program too is that they live in two worlds. And what's that mean? They live in our world, a third dimensional environment. They also can go into another dimension possibly, and they can change out of our frequency. Oh, Tammy's liking this.
That's Tammy right there.
All of the things that I have a theories of is what you're saying, and I'm just like, yes.
And they say that they are spiritual beings who live in two worlds and that they live in trees. And that's a lot of Native lore has that in it. So there you are. So
all right,
that goes way back.
It does. Let's do our final audio clip, and then we can just chat away.
That was a samurai cry. That's
Yes.
actually Matt Moneymaker. You know him. He BFRO. He coined that. He heard that before he started the BFRO in 1995, I think it was, when he came up to see me, and I played the sounds for him, and that sounds like a samurai, you know. And so he coined the samurai cry, and it stuck with it. Now everybody says, "Oh, I heard samurai language," you know. I don't know. They do have an Oriental fling to them, that's for sure. So it's hard to say. I don't know. I mean, we're all just exploring this stuff, but I just had that experience, and I'm glad I could be with you guys tonight so I could talk about it. That's what I do now. That's all I do now. That and walk the dogs. I carry the trash. Yeah, I can do that. That's what guys are for, isn't it? Well, excuse me.
So I agree with you, Ron.
I do
100%. All the way.
And
So I
open
got
jars.
open jars, yeah. Well, I'm pretty good at that, but sometimes I need help. But I had a question about the samurai cry. What was going on at the time that happened?
Okay, that's that story I've written about in my Voice in the Wilderness book. That whole event, because we packed up that evening at the trailhead, all the mules, and got it all going. Start off really early so we can get into camp in one day, and we got about a couple hundred yards up the trail, and our horse's mule got spooked, and that's on the cover of my book. You'll see how I depict that on the cover of that book. And we thought nothing of it. It could have been a bear, could have been a snake, could have been whatever. We don't know. It didn't bother us, so we just kept going. And about another quarter mile up the trail, here's this big footprint, right, perpendicular in the trail. And no one, I was the lead horse. I mean, I was in the lead, and ringing a mule, and I see this track perpendicular to the trail, and I stop. Whoa, that's an eye catcher, you know. And nothing else had been on the trail. Nothing, no humans anyway, and or the horses or animals. And this trail only goes up a couple miles, then you get off the trail and you go your own way to get to our camp. But I stopped, took some pictures of it, and we rubbed it out because I didn't want whoever follows or whoever comes up after us to see it. So in case our mules or horses didn't wipe it out anyway. But anyway, that tells us, okay, these things are around. And we got into camp. It was just about to get dark. Bill started undoing the horses, putting those away. I started a stove and started making our meals, and had some stew cooking, I think. And we started hearing pop, pop, you know, the rocks popping, and I went over, because I didn't have my big tape recorder. I just had the little one in my saddlebag. So I went over my saddlebag, got my tape recorder out, and started recording. And Bill did too. And that's when you hear the whooping sounds, different types of whooping sounds. I hear a tree knocking, knock, 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 and then over here, crack, 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 you know, and they're going back and forth like this. And so you know there's more than one. Either there, they can throw their sound somewhere, which maybe they can do. Which brings up another point I'll talk about in a minute. Remind me about air sacs, how they can throw their voice, I think. And witness. Anyway, let me get started with the story here. I get off track. So we just kept doing what he's doing. I kept making the meal, and Bill came over and sat down at the stove area, and we was recording, and that's when they started yelling at me. Yelling at us, and I thought it sounded like a question, and so I started yelling back, trying to mimic them a little bit, and got a lot of reaction from it. And this went on for over an hour right there, and it's really exciting. You still don't know what they are. You don't know for sure what their intent is. They're just being friendly with you for, we don't know. You know, it's just.
Have you ever thought of maybe, because they were so far into the woods, that maybe this group was older or more intelligent or, you know, from the beginning?
Well, we didn't have any other experience to know before. And we weren't Bigfoot hunters. We weren't Bigfoot people. We were just there dealing with something with a Bigfoot, and super intelligent, super intuitive, and very aware of what's going on. And what, you know, I think they're not like the Patterson film, you know, the Patty, you call it.
Mhm.
Their tracks are different. I think they're different. And again, like I talked about earlier, I think it's that whatever their nuclear DNA shows will be what created them through troglodyte, probably.
If they can use frequency to become matter, wouldn't they be able to be anything?
Well, there you go with shapeshifting. You guys heard about the ranch in Utah. You know, it's got Skinwalker Ranch. Can they actually get into something on some of their form? If they can change their energy, again, I'm not sure they can all do the same thing. I think they have different attributes, different ones. And if some of them can change their matter into energy, they may have the ability to change that energy into another form. And that would also give credence to the dog man. It would give credence to the dog that you've seen or heard about, read about in the Skinwalker Ranch. I think there's answers to everything. There's answers. It's not everybody's just crazy imagination. There's something going on out there. And that's what I'm all about, just trying to give some kind of acceptable answer to it, you know.
Concrete
something
proof,
you can think about, you know. At least there is a science behind it, and we just have to look into it. You know, if you're a religious person, you know who our masters were a couple thousand years ago, who he was, and he said whatever he's doing, we can do. Now you read some of that stuff in ancient texts, and you think, well, we're supposed to be able to walk on water and change water into wine and all that stuff. Well, we can. We just haven't evolved into it. We've taken ourselves out of that, and it's a shame because we can do it. And we're going now to, well, I don't want to say this, sound like I'm freaky, but the age of Aquarius, and that's enlightenment. I think that's what the 2012 calendar was all about, or the Mayan calendar. We're going into an age of enlightenment, and we're going to learn more, and we're going to have this, got to get into what our consciousness is all about, because our consciousness is what doesn't die. You know, it just goes on, and you can have some things to answer to when you get out of this embodiment. So you can either choose to go into another one, or and answer those things, or you can not, you know, and do something else. But you're not just going to perish. You know, that don't happen according to science. That's science. Energy can't die. And that's what we all are at the most minute level of our existence. We are energy vibrating at a frequency.
Yes.
I can't
totally agree.
wait until we get to Meadow Lane Falls to this conference, because I want to have dinner with you and I want to have these conversations in depth with you.
Well, then we're all going to be going to dinner, Tammy.
Yeah.
Ron, to yourself. Go.
I'm not trying to.
I know.
Oh, it's fun. It's all fun. Yeah.
Yes, yes. The strange lights, the strange balls of light. Have you seen various different kinds of those associated with your Bigfoot sightings?
Not so much. Now the Warrens Johnsons were up there, and they told us they're not just going to ramble off at something. I mean, they had some balls falling around above their head. Don't laugh like that.
Sorry.
No, these glowing balls were following them around up there. Now they said they were up in the trees, they were moving around, and I don't doubt them at all, because there's so many strange things that goes on, and I've seen lights up there, but nothing's ever followed me around that I know of. We had some strange things. I thought this ticking noise I heard one time, we laid in the shelter and heard this clicking noise outside, sounded like castanets or something, by the stove, and it started moving closer to the shelter. And we thought, oh, that's interesting. All of a sudden it was inside, and our shelter door was closed. I had to come through there. How to get in there? What was it? We turned our lights on. It stopped just immediately, and turn the lights off and start up again. Well, what's happening? Had that same clicking noise happen to me down in my ranch in the valley. When I was out irrigating, I heard this clicking noise messing around with me out there. So I started, what's doing that? I couldn't find a source of it. And yet there it was. I asked Bill McDowell, you ever had anything happen to you when you're back down here at your place? Because he had a ranch too. And he said, yeah, you know, the clicking noise. I had that happen to me. He said, I heard that clicking noise. So what's that all about? You know, are they checking you out? What are they doing? it's all energy, and energy, everything's energy. Everything is energy. The trees, the plants, we, us, we're all one energy. And that's what even ancient text says, we all must become one, and we all will become one.
Absolutely.
One energy, one source. Once we learn that, that's how telepathy works, because all of a sudden, you got to clean up your pineal gland and decalcify it. And, it's got that coating around it. I won't say cellulose. Cellulite. One's fat, one's not. That's funny. But anyway, it surrounds your pineal gland. It's a little pineapple thing looking. It's the third eye, the eye of Horus. It's the dot that's right there. It's right in the middle of your brain, and it's depicted in several pictoglyphs all around. And it's also painted the eyeball. You look at one, and it's your third eye. Has all the attributes of an eyeball, except it does not require light. And that's your receptor. That's how you can receive things. That's why you meditate. You try to receive, and you just praying's when you're asking for something, but when you're meditating, you're receiving things. And you just got to clear your mind and learn how to meditate, and that gets you closer, get your vibrational frequency higher, makes everything better for you. You don't know what to do because your heart and your mind has to get in coherence with each other. You do that through meditation, because if your heart, it's got the better brain, by the way. If you get the gut feeling you should do something, you got to follow that. You just got to make sure your heart is in coherence with the mind, because your mind's got to tell your body what to do. And if you get it right, then you're going to be led by the heart, and that's what's important, in my opinion.
I agree. I totally agree. You're singing my song. Okay, we've just got like 2 minutes left, and I want to give you ample time to tell people where they can find you, your books, contact you, whatever. Because I know you have books out there that people should read for sure.
Well, I got my 2 books I've written. I'm on my 3rd one now, just starting it. And my first one is Voices of Wilderness. My website is ronmorehead.com, and it's MOREHEAD.com. And this is the first book I wrote. See that? You see it?
I can't see it.
I can't see it.
Pulled it in front of your face.
Anyway.
Ah.
That's how you find my stuff. I got 2 CDs I produced with the vocalizations on them, and narrated. One of them is narrated by me. The other one's narrated by Jonathan Frakes, Star Trek: The Next Generation. And then I have another book called The Quantum Bigfoot, which I just came out with a couple of 3 years, whatever it was. And it gets into the science that I think relates to these beings, and how I think what I've been talking about tonight. And the next book I have is going to be called The Quantum, the Bigfoot Enigma. And it's going to, I think, explains a few things. I hope.
I'm excited. I am excited.
I'm gonna
It's all
find
fun.
the book.
You gotta have fun with life. Be happy and enjoy your experiences and be good
Yes,
with it.
and experience them. Like, go out of the house and go do something, right?
Yeah. I rode my bicycle this afternoon.
Hey, I took a walk
That's
and
awesome.
lifted weights.
Well, anyway, yeah, we got to do things, keep yourself going,
Yes.
and enjoy your experiences.
Exactly.
So anyway, One O in Morehead, got to get that one out. I should have my books here, but the 2 CDs, it's all downloadable to on the website.
RonMorehead.com, everybody. Check it out. Thanks for coming on the show tonight. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And we'll see you next week. Good night.
Bye.
Good night. Thank you.